first speaker, Jay Wiggins, will be speaking on a fair tax. Jay is an experienced and well-versed speaker. He always has ability to entertain us. He's a natural at speaking in front of a group, so I'm looking forward to his speech today. Please welcome Jay Wiggins.
The income tax is bad. It was conceived in class hatred. It's an instrument of vengeance. It plays right into the hands of the communists. It employs a vicious communist principle. It takes from each according to the accumulation of their fruits, their labor, gives to others, regardless of whether it should be given to them. Said the commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service in 1955. The guy who has to enforce this doesn't even like this. Today I'm going to speak about the income tax. I'm going to talk about the current state of income taxes. I'm going to talk about the fair tax proposal. And then I'm going to talk about why it probably won't ever work. So let's start with the current state of income taxes. We're in an election year. So already the candidates are starting to come out with their ideas. Trump, for instance, wants 4 tax brackets: 0, 10%, 20%, and 25% for those highest. Cruz wants a flat tax of 10% on everyone. Rubio, 3 tax brackets of 15, 25, 35. Clinton, can you guess where the Democrats are going? I bet you could. Let's get the rich. 4% increase for those highest. Sanders, he's going to announce his pretty soon. But we'll all find out. They all have their own ideas on this code. But the one thing is, the current tax code is 74,000 pages long. None of them said they were going to shrink it or make it simple yet. When I gave this speech in 2009, ended up, I said 60,000 pages long. So in the matter of 6 years, they've already increased another 14,000 pages. Now, the cost of compliance for these things is $200 billion a year. That means it costs us to go to H&R Block, to hire accountants, tax departments, to just comply to pay your taxes. We're spending $200 billion a year and not really improving the economy, but just weaving through these regulations. And currently the tax code is progressive, which means we don't like to tax the poor very much, but as you make more money, you've got to pay a little bit more. Almost everyone agrees with that. So let's move on to the second thing. That was our current state. The next is the fair tax proposal. How many of you in here want Nevada to have a state income tax? Oh, surprising. What? Well, 9 states don't have an income tax, and that's because it's terrible. National sales tax is what I'm talking about. Let's move away from taxing people's income and go to a final retail sales tax on the final purchase. And it's in place for most cities, counties, states. There is a process to collect this. The intent of this proposal is also to be revenue neutral, not to give the government more money or give the government less money, just make it pay for where we're at now, but let's reduce all those compliance costs and stop taxing people on the work they do. This enables workers to keep their whole paycheck. No more FICA stealing that little notch out of your paycheck. No personal income tax. Get rid of that. What you make is what you see on your paycheck. Minus, of course, your medical and those sort of things. It also helps retirees keep their entire pensions. It takes away the corporate income tax. So now it allows our companies to compete nationally without the burden of trying to comply with these tax laws and pay that 35% that they would be looking at if they didn't go through all the deductions and all the other mess of that 74,000 pages to weave through. Finally, it closes a lot of loopholes and it simplifies the IRS. I don't want the IRS to really have much more power, but right now the IRS is tracking every single one of us, 140 million taxpayers. But what if instead of tracking us that detail and us trying to fight with them all the time, all they did was focus on the 20 million businesses in the country you reduce it by sevenfold. So now you can enforce the tax laws on the businesses, which tax accountants, you guys would still have a job to deal with the IRS. You wouldn't all get unemployed at once. Finally, in this section, the tax base is widened because illegal immigrants, guess what? They have to buy stuff. 40 million tourists a year visit the United States. They would be buying stuff, paying our sales tax, paying our national tax. They don't do that currently. And the best part, drug dealers. They get to pay some taxes because, Rachel, what do drug dealers like?
Tax evasion?
No. well, on income, yeah. But if you're a drug dealer with lots of cash, what do you want to go buy? What do you want to buy with all your cash? If you're a drug dealer.
More drugs? I don't know.
She's too analytical.
So what do drug dealers want to buy?
Spinning rims.
Yeah, spinning rims. You gotta go to the spinning rim store. You gotta go to the jewelry store and get gold chains. You gotta buy a 40 ounce.
Obviously
You gotta
not
buy
work
a
with
bigger
drug
speaker
dealers.
system. Now we're making money from these drug dealers. It also gets rid of the double taxation that we all get. We pay taxes on our paycheck, then we invest it, then we have to also get double tax on the back end when our investments do well. Let's get rid of all that. But let's finally talk about the last thing, why it won't work. Well, like I said, there's an industry dedicated to 74,000 pages of tax code. The accountant lobby isn't going to let us get rid of it. They have a great job. Tax attorneys. Status quo is great as well. Politicians like to have the power of giving these little deductions away to this interest group and this interest group. The other thing is they say that this would create a huge underground market where people would avoid paying this tax. Again, I think because we focus on retailers and that's where the majority of where we could collect this tax, we're doing way better than the rest of us fighting the IRS. Another complaint is transition costs would be enormous, but most of all, I think this isn't really politically viable solution for everyone. So in summary, the current state is a mess. I don't expect it to get any better. The fair tax proposal, it's simple, straightforward, fair, makes a lot of sense. But finally, there's no political appetite to fundamentally change the status quo. And finally, Albert Einstein said, the hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. Thank you.